So this video is going to be a little different. Normally I don't like to talk about politics this nakedly on my channel, and also I normally plotted my points meticulously in a script, but I feel like I have to comment about this sooner than 6 months from now. And while I don't really have that much to say about the movie itself, it's more the situation and an ongoing trend that I just can't stand anymore. So, here we are. Bros. I recently saw Bros, the new romantic comedy by Nicholas Stoller and Billy Eichner. And speaking as a man who's been dating other men for 6 years, I did not like Bros very much. Neither did the box office. And this painfully low gross sent Eichner into a meltdown on the digital wastes of the Bird app, implying that if you don't see this movie, you're a homophobe. And in now deleted tweets, he blamed the movie's box office performance on, quote, straights not showing up. To my straight audience, I implore you to please just ignore Billy. I absolve you of all guilt for not watching Bros. Your support of gay people does not depend on whether or not you see this lackluster movie. Now, is Bros 100% bad? No, of course not. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a few laughs here and there. And my theater laughed at like half the jokes in the movie, but for the most part this really didn't work for me. For one, the editing was shockingly noticeably bad. There are moments where two shots are cut together where a character starts an action in the first shot and then it doesn't carry over to the next shot. And there's some very noticeable ADR dubbing, which gets distracting. It just feels sloppy, and I don't normally like using that word because making movies is hard and I've not made a movie myself. Yet, for all the hullabaloo about it coming from a major studio, it sure didn't feel like a major studio release. Or maybe it does at this point, who's to say? But hey, editing is something that only pretentious jerks, like me, notice and complain about. It's a rom-com, at least the characters are fun and engaging, right? No, actually. Luke McFarlane's role as Aaron was alright, but I found Eichner's character pretty unlikable and self-centered. And it's made worse by the movie's insistence that he is not in the wrong. The only times he's portrayed as being in the wrong is when he briefly tries to change himself. There's one point where he pushes too far in an argument, but still wins the person over to his viewpoint in the end. The only real sense of growth I got in this movie was that he learned that he is already good enough to love just the way he is. Ugh. And this starts to lead into what I really wanted to address here, Eichner's disastrous PR run for this movie. For example, in a Variety interview, he emphasized that this is not an indie movie. This is not some streaming thing which feels disposable, or which is like one of a million Netflix shows. I needed to appreciate that this is a historic moment, and somehow you're at the center of it. You helped create it. Now there was some pushback on the way he dismissed indie and streaming films, and he did end up apologizing, saying he truly is sorry if he inadvertently offended or insulted anyone. He really is. But the problem is that this attitude is baked into the text of Bros itself. The movie often cracks jokes at the expense of other movies that have come before it for not being as morally correct. Brokeback Mountain in particular gets multiple swipes taken at it. Bros takes delight in lampooning Hallmark rom-com movies for being tokenizing, and yet lacks the self-awareness to realize it's doing the exact same thing. I'm not going to argue whether or not these movies are problematic. That's not the scope of this video. All I'm remarking on is that Bros is so intent on being lauded that it takes pot shots at other queer movies or just pretends they don't exist. It's so desperate to be some kind of first that they need to add on so many asterisks. The first gay rom-com, produced by a major studio, with a wide release, that stars one of the writers of the movie. And the thing is, I can at least see the sense in this kind of showboating. Bros shrilly clings to the idea that it is somehow barrier-breaking because otherwise it has nothing to offer. In the light of Roe v. Wade's overturn, Justice Clarence Thomas explicitly said the decision laid the groundwork to repeal Obergefell's legalization of same-sex marriage. Eichner's response to this was to go to the Video Music Awards in August and implore people to see Bros. When the movie opened fourth on the box office and proved to be a disappointment, Eichner took to the internet and put out his aforementioned tweets. Straight people just didn't show up for Bros. Everyone who isn't a homophobic weirdo should go see Bros tonight. And this is wrong. Allyship should not be contingent on someone buying a ticket to a derivative, cloying picture. Hell, even if we were talking about Portrait of a Lady on Fire, another recent queer movie, which has more merit in a single still frame than the entirety of Bros, I still wouldn't consider seeing it a prerequisite for being a supporter of queer rights. Now, I said you should really see Portrait of a Lady on Fire. It's so good. Oh my god. Really, that's the thesis statement of this video. I am tired of the gay community being exploited as a marketing gimmick. Buying a ticket to a Marvel movie which has a gay kiss is not activism. Buying a ticket to Bros is not going to change any minds on the Supreme Court. All it does is fuel the wallets of companies that have no stake in protecting our rights, and can, and will, and have dropped LGBT representation at the slightest threat to their pocketbooks. I'm tired of the queer community being bombarded with important movies. I don't want important movies, I want good movies. Again, speaking about the Supreme Court and homophobia in general, Eichner said, "They are in the past and Bros is the future." If Bros is the future for queer cinema, then I think it's a very, very sad future indeed.